Hi. So, yeah, it's been a while. I know I haven't posted since prior to Christmas. A lot's been happening, but I felt the urge to do this video today because of some sad news. My baby girl cat, Rosie, passed away last Friday, in an hour's time. It will be a whole week. She went at 2:15, or well, probably 2:30. So the whole family are devastated. She was totally one of the family. I feel like I've lost a daughter. They're never just pets, and um, it's just been a really surreal week. And I wanted to do this video because of all the crazy signs that she has been sending me and my family, and um, and a brief dream I had, and the visions during meditation. Because if anybody has just recently lost a pet or even a friend, family member, or do have somebody who is sick and you're just thinking, where are they? What are they up to? What signs to look out for? Because there are some weird signs that, that some are little and some are big. They're just weird, and I really felt compelled to share it because if it brings comfort to someone else or just finds it interesting, then this video's done its job. So, a bit of a backstory. Rosie would have been 11 in about a week and a half. She started showing signs 6 months ago that she wasn't feeling too good. So, Rosie has always been a big, fat, hungry cat. We took her to the vet multiple times, thinking she had a thyroid problem. I mean, her appetite for food is crazy, and it's quite difficult when you've got a multi-pet household trying to, keep her on her diet and that. We even put up posters in the neighborhood to say, Don't feed this cat," because she was so obese. Um, so I just thought maybe because she's coming up to 11, that's when they enter their part of their life. I thought maybe she's just easing off the food a bit. But then a couple months later, it became apparent that something's up. So we took her in and they did some bloods, and they're like, yeah, something's definitely up. She had an ultrasound, and they're like, all her lymph nodes, like in her stomach, are up. So it was kind of a thing whether she had IBD, irritable bowel disease, or she had like stomach lymphoma or something. We just weren't sure, and the issue is that both medical problems are completely mirrored. They have exactly the same symptoms, so it was just like this horrible waiting game. So one week we'd be thinking it was IBD because she'd be quite perky, she'd be eating a bit better, and thinking, yay, that's great because if it's IBD, it can be managed with drugs, special food, which she was on, and she can like lead quite a relatively normal life for maybe 4+ years. And then obviously the down week, she'd be like, well, I'm not so sure, this ain't looking too good. She's off her food, she's lethargic, she looks miserable as sin, and you just don't know what to do. But she had so many visits to the vets, and they didn't feel that she was ready yet, and they won't put down a cat that they think has time. Um, so yeah, things she was on trialing so many different injections and pills, and then it just became apparent after Christmas that things weren't going too well. I mean, the weight loss was incredible. Um, if she was a human, she would be going for skin corrective surgery because it was just sagging off of her. You could even see the lymph nodes in her abdomen, like just sagging and shaking every time she walked. And if that wasn't bad enough, because she was obviously uncomfortable, she decided to start pulling all her fur out. So she was losing her fur hair. Her arms were bald, her side was bald, her stomach was bald, and then it just add more salt to the wound as a result of because it obviously did end up being cancer. She her eye kind of like started to swell. It was red, it was sore, so she had eye drops for that. Um, so 2 weeks ago, she had two vet trips. and we were told on the first visit you're looking at months. Then 3 days later, because we had to take her back in because her eye was getting worse, I was told, yeah, probably a month. But here's the thing, prior to being told a month, potentially two, um, I was really upset that day when the vet said I was upset when she said months. And and that night I was getting ready for bed. I was in my ensuite bathroom and yeah, I was tears. I was just like, I can't believe this is happening. I love this girl so much. And my granddad like said to me, um, she's got 1 month, as in that's the window, the maximum of 1 month. And not to worry because I'm going to look after her, I'm going to take care of her. And that set me right off. I was so sad, and I grabbed my phone and did an audio of it because I thought I want the timestamp, I want to play this to my family when this is all over. So I knew max she had a month. Either way, she was going to be gone in a month. But again, the vet said, she seems quite comfortable at the minute. She's on her meds, take her home and spoil her. But it then got to a point where, like, I looked at her and my gut was telling me, it's not good. And as the mum of the house, I felt like I had that awful decision to be the one to say, look, guys, I think it's time. Last Thursday, it was absolutely horrific because, I had to phone my husband and say, can you phone the vets to book her in? I can't do it. And then I had to tell my children, and my daughter especially has a big bond with Rosie. Um, it was just so sad. I couldn't stop crying. I had to. Oh, here's the other thing. I said last Thursday to my guides, if it really is her time, the jig's up. Can you please find me a suitable box in the house? Because believe it or not, I've been on Amazon. I've been like all over the internet trying to find the right size that's a decent box so that it can decompose properly and just give her a proper send off. And I couldn't find nothing. I know you're probably thinking, well, it's a box. You can get boxes everywhere, but I didn't just want. The box had to be the right size in it, and I wasn't prepared to pay £40 for a box. So I was just like, I'll keep my eyes peeled. And I went in shops, couldn't find anything suitable. So, and I rooted around the house repeatedly in the 2 weeks prior to this, couldn't find a box. So yeah, I said to my guides, if it's her time, can you throughout the day just find that box for me so I know. I'm telling you now, within an hour, I just happened to stumble across a box, perfect size, and I had the horrible task of like we decided to paint it black and put her name on it because she is a black cat. Um, you know, I didn't really want to bury her in a shoebox saying Nike on it. So yeah, then then she went in and it was I thought I'll be honest, this is just my experience. I thought it was going to be way more peaceful. I'm actually traumatized by it, but I had to keep telling myself um that she's I don't want to cry. I know I'm doing the right thing because she was going to be I'm trying to save her from more pain because I was having to give her morphine every 8 hours in the 2 to 3 days prior to her passing. And the irony is, the vets didn't know she was going to go, but we just happened to have the exact amount of morphine that would get her through to her being put down, which I think's quite interesting. And yeah, I mean, the injection stung like hell. To me, she looked a bit distressed. Her heart seemed to be pounding, and I could see her breathing was really erratic. That I was reassured it was going to be peaceful, but anyway, I had to, we were all crying, even the vet was crying. So that's the backstory. She's safe and she's free and bloody happy. So anyway, let's get to the signs. So this is all what's happened in sort of like the last 5 or 6 days. So, oh, and I have some pictures which I will edit in, but some of them I don't. So the next morning, Had a cup of tea in bed, put on the telly, and just put this random show on, and it was this woman getting married, and this bride of all names on the freaking planet, she was called Rosie, and I said to my husband, that's a bit weird, that. So, I just made a mental note of that. And then whilst we were burying her the next day, because we sort of decided to put her in her box and leave her in the lounge and keep her overnight, I just didn't, we all agreed we didn't have the heart to just stick her straight in an icy cold ground. We, and of course she was still warm. I couldn't do it. So we sort of like put her by the fireplace, and we sort of paid our respects throughout the evening. So we decided we'll dig a hole and do it the next day. But yeah, the whole time there were these two robins who watched over the entire burial. They didn't leave, and we all know that robins are a very good sign from the spirit realm, from loved ones, and to say we're okay and we're sending you love and support. Then yeah, her playmate Peter. Peter is the second. No, hang on. He's the second youngest. He's a big Maine Coon, and he and Rosie are like virtually married, and they spend all their time together. He that evening was just looking around the lounge at weird stuff, and especially intently looking in the hallway door. And I know from past experience of having to see cats and that living cats can get fixated, because from what I understand, a cat first sees a spiritual form, and then they see the physical form. Um, right, so, right, yeah. So the next day, we'd already planned to go shopping, and we could have just cancelled and stayed at home wallowing, but we decided no, let's go shopping, and we'll get you, Rosie, a black picture frame and some candles, so that when we get home, we can, put make her sorry, excuse me, it is. So we'd already put some flowers on her grave that morning, but we wanted to make it look a bit special and mark the event, and so we were going to stick some candles in the ground, and do this picture frame. We all chose our favourite picture from our phones of Rosie and put it in the frame. Um, so we're in the shop, and on this black picture frame, it's just so weird. I mean, again, some of these signs are big, some are small, but in the corner of the frame, there was a little logo, and it looked like a cat, a black cat. It did sort of resemble Rosie, and I thought that's weird. And then my daughter's like, "You got to be kidding me!" Right next to the photo frames, this black photo frame was a whole stack of black cat mugs. I mean, you couldn't write it. So, right, where are we now? Sorry, I have to write it all down, but I ain't got that great a memory. And then, yeah, the candles we put by the grave were like dinner candles, the long ones. And something weird happened with them. Not quite sure, but they sort of melted. Well, I don't know how they melted together, but they sort of exploded. Like, like it had so much energy around it, they just sort of went crazy ass and died. Like they melted down really quick, and it was like this big ball of flames. Um, and then bear in mind, my husband is not a believer. He just isn't, and that's another video, but it is difficult living with somebody who's a non-believer. But he took some photos of the grave that night while the candles were lit, and he said, Annie, you need to take a look at these photos. And it is weird because it is like there is something trying to manifest in each three shots. Now, I do appreciate that there are things like lens flare, flames can sometimes give off a blue hue or a purple hue, that sort of thing. But I'm more interested in the third shot where there does look, because this is my baby, I know what she looks like. There is what looks like her little snouty nose, like her wet nose, it would shine the light off of it, and two eyes. It is weird. So I know that's up for debate, but then where are we? Um yeah, and then my eldest cat, um, Twiglet, the matriarch, she too was clearly spotting something that we couldn't see. She went bolt upright on the sofa and she was intently looking at the bottom step of the stairs, like 100% something was there, and she was fixated. And that was one of Rosie's favourite places to sit, was just to curl up on the bottom of the step. And so I'm totally going with that because Twiglet, that's her name, Twiglet. She is incredibly intuitive and attuned to things. We call her the nurse of the family because she always knows when people are sick. She knows when they're upset, and I've seen that a lot this week. She has been comforting me. Um, yeah, the next one is this one's Megas. I just don't get this at all. I mean, I was making tea or dinner for my son, cracked the eggs into the frying pan. I literally had my back turned for like 2 seconds, walked back, and there is a clear heart shape in between these two other eggs. And I'm just like, my son has been quite reserved about it all, typical lad. He cried his eyes out in the vets, but then he um went went back to his room and sort of kept himself to himself. And I just couldn't help but feel that this was a sign specific for him. Have a heart egg. I mean, it is weird. So there's that. Um, then yeah, this is up for debate, but I still think it's weird. So when we went shopping on the Saturday, the day after, we decided to like grab some tea, and we went to Pizza Express, and we didn't order olives. We don't even like olives, and yeah, um, my pizza came, and there's just this one giant black olive on the pizza. Now you might think, well, yeah, big deal, whatever. It's obviously just fallen on, but I'm not trying to be funny, but like it's stuck out like a sore thumb. I don't get how the person in the kitchen didn't like think, oh my God, I can't leave that on there. X marks the spot. And the funny thing is Rosie did resemble a big black olive. Like we used to nickname her bowling ball and magic eight ball because she was so fat. So I just can't help but think, is that's her humor? And so we put it in the middle of the table and just sort of like looked at it and humored it. But I'm taking that as a sign. And then little things like on Saturday, the clock said 11:11, all those kind of like popular ones, and more robins. Every time someone was looking out the lounge windows onto the garden where her grave is, it's like there's more robins. They just kept coming. And then on the Sunday, more 111s and more robins. And then a few days ago, I honestly thought I heard her meow because she has quite a distinct meow. And I thought, oh my God, it's like, and for a second, I just thought she was alive because it's still quite soon and you do forget that she's passed. And then you get those horrible realizations where, oh my God, she's gone. Um, but it's up for debate because, there are other cats in the house, but it just didn't sound like the other cats. Um, and my daughter also thought she heard Rosie purring in her room, and I believe there weren't any other cats in there. And like I said, her and Rosie were really close. She actually spent an awful lot of her time in my daughter's bedroom in the days leading up to her death, because as you know, cats will tend to find a place to settle and like almost like a death spot, if you like, where they want to settle, and that's where they want to be. And she chose under my daughter's bed. Um, and then my daughter was driving back from uni, and she was thinking about Rosie because she's been distraught all week about it. And a feather flew by the car, and then when she got home, she got out. She opened the door, and there on the floor was a feather. Now, yeah, fair enough. It isn't like a pristine giant feather that's come off of an angel's wing per se, but all the same, it's a feather, and that made my day because I had been asking, can you send Edie a feather so that she can keep it, as a keepsake. Um, and then something a bit strange was that our back gate I can see it from my kitchen window, and it's slightly ajar, held together by two rocks either side, because we don't want the gate to accidentally shut. And we do this because all our cats are now elderly, and I don't want them going over the gate anymore, because they do stand a high chance of hurting themselves. Anyway, I don't know why, because there's no reason for this gate to move at all. And I even double checked to see what the wind was like outside, but I saw the gate going like that, and I don't know why it would do that. It's almost like she's trying to say, I'm out here, I'm having fun, I'm brushing it by the gate. And yeah, like I said, I went out to check the wind, and I'm telling you now that that not a leaf was bloody moving. And I've got tons of trees overhanging um into my garden next to a river, and nothing was moving. I don't get why the gate was moving back and forth. So that is a bit of a weird one. I mean, I'm just going to add it on there because it's just so strange. And to move at that exact point, I looked. And then um, finally, my husband, like I said, he's a non-believer. He said that the next day, he swears blind, he saw what looked like a black cat, identical to Rosie, jump over the back gate. Sorry, the back fence towards the river. And and there aren't any black cats in our area. Well, the only one I know is way down, like the bottom of the estate, and rarely ever comes up here. It's never come in our garden, but it looks slightly different to our black cat. So he said it was her, and he's just like, so obviously she's not here. So who was that black cat? All right, so those are the signs. Like I said, they're big and small. I keep saying that, but that has brought me um, great comfort, and I just wanted to share them because it is interesting. It you know it does bring me comfort that she is alive and well. And very quickly, yeah, I mentioned at the beginning about I had um, some visions and that. So I decided to do myself a healing meditation. I just grabbed one off of YouTube. It was a guided meditation, and I was in bed, um, doing concentrating on the lady's voice and just trying to get into it and just relaxing. And then completely out of nowhere, I wasn't even thinking about Rosie. I was shown a bunch of visions which like touched me to my core. I started crying my eyes out. I just because it really felt like they were direct from from her and my granddad. So I was shown um, Rosie sort of coming into the spirit realm. She parked her butt, she had a quick look round, she looked up at my granddad, he looked down at her, and there was this lovely kind of like, oh my God, they're together, this is really happening. And it felt so loving and fantastic, and then it started to choke me. And then I also saw her running through beautiful meadows. The light felt quite golden, like late afternoon where the sun lights everything up and it all looks gold. She was perfect. She wasn't overweight. Everything was just perfect. And she was just running like lightning, having the time of her life. I also saw her going to what I can only describe as like a ball of light, or like a sun, and she was walking slowly towards that. And at the last minute, she sort of turned around to check whether I was there or still watching, and that choked me out. And then the one that really got me was my granddad and her were going for a stroll through the meadows, and he was in awe of her and she was in awe of him. They were just like BFFs. And he would, as they were walking, they stopped, and then he'd lean over to sort of stroke her. And then he even went down to her level on his knees and gave her some more strokes. And it's just, and the thing is, like, my granddad died when I was 5, so I only from a few photos have a small idea of what he looked like. Um, at that time period because he looked like he was sort of late 30s, early 40s. Um, and he was wearing clothes that I'd assume were around in the 50s, late 40s. He looked really, really well. I mean, he wasn't wearing glasses, he wasn't old. His hair was immaculate. He had a side part in, and he just looked super smart and healthy. And I thought that was weird because that's not something that I'm looking for or thinking for. It just is what it is. So, and I've had my granddad once before um, come through in in a meditation, and he looks so handsome and beautiful. And that's not something I go looking for because, like I said, when I was only 5 when he went, and he was suffering so badly with cancer, he looked a mess. Anyway, and the last thing was, so during this meditation, I ended up nodding off. I was just so exhausted. So um, I remember waking up like, and then like remembering, crikey, I just woke up from a dream, very, very brief dream, but all the same, it was vivid and it was lovely, and it was just like, oh wow. I had my hands around her black body, her big body, and we embraced. And I just remember thinking, I've got you, Rosie. We're having an embrace, and then I just woke up. So yeah, so I feel really blessed to have been given all that because I've been able to share that with my daughter who's been beside herself wondering what she's doing. So I think anybody who's lost a pet or a loved one or a friend can relate to that. Yeah, you know they're not there, and then you're gonna have to wait a good while until you're reunited, which is how it has to be. When you're grieving, it sucks, um, but thing that was getting her was she wanted to know what is she actually doing, what's she up to, where is she? And so I was like really pleased that I could quietly, when the time was right, say to her, well, look, she's fine, she's with my granddad. He's having a lot of fun with her, and she will be waiting for us. She's just happy, she ain't going nowhere. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. Sorry it was a long one. um I just I just feel compelled now to like do videos when I feel like it because anybody who's watched any of my previous videos, this isn't supposed to be like some super spiritual art channel or anything. It's just meant to be a journal of my experiences, my life as a spirit artist, and just documenting really um, things that happen, me evolving as a spirit artist. It's not supposed to be about likes and all that jazz. So anyway, I hope you found it interesting. I'm going to go now and stop waffling. Okay, take care. Bye.